stuff, but we'll see. Yeah, reap
at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. The reap is, I like the reap one because parking's good outside and people are close. But anyway, never mind, we're here. So thank you for coming out. What it is just, this is to do with how our emotional health can affect our physical health, mental health can affect our physical health. And really it's just an introduction, so it's not going to give you all the answers in one short space of time because it's only an hour and a half, but it's just really to give people a little bit of an idea so that you can kind of recognise things and think, oh yeah, and then maybe, you know, you might want to learn more from there, and he will do other things like one-day workshops and one-on-ones, etc. in the future. So we're just trying to put it out there and make people aware of it, really. So if you do get too warm, let us know, because we nearly cooked the people at REAP. Not that we knew, it was all right by the back of the room where I was. But yeah, so just in case if it does get too warm, we have turned off the aircon, we can always open the door. But if everyone's okay, and then, yeah, hey, here's Limo.
Kia ora, thanks, mate. Last time we opened windows then, it was like noisy as.
Yeah,
And then we had to shut them and...
They were sweeping the streets. It's like, oh dear, that's not good. Yeah.
I'm going to leave this over here.
Can you see past my
Well, kia ora koutou. Grateful to be here tonight, and thanks for, again, as Marie says, coming out on an awesome night like this. When probably would have been, nah, just kick back at home and watch some TV or keep warm at least anyway. Hopefully this will be something that's useful for you and you might get something out of it that will be helpful for you or your whānau and for any others that you work with or spend time with. So just to quickly get started and share a little bit about, I guess, myself. I know that maybe Marie's shared some. I know that a few of you might know a little bit about my background, but just a quick introduction. For me, my whānau will come from Tauranga, and we come from Huria Marae and Wairua Marae, if you're familiar with any of the marae in Tauranga. That's where my whānau come from. I was brought up there, went to school there, and everything until I went to uni, which was down in Otago. Did pharmacy with my mate here, Cuts, and we loved it. Yeah, and I ended up doing a bit of pharmacy work afterwards. She carried on and did what she was supposed to do, and now owns pharmacies. I said, I don't really want to stay in pharmacy. Left pharmacy, started doing some other stuff. Went into doing more exercise, fitness, personal training, ran a gym, owned a gym, and then realised that maybe that wasn't the answer for everyone either as far as improving our health and well-being. So for me, realised that maybe medicine isn't the whole answer either. That's why I thought maybe I'd do something more corrective, help on the preventative side. Let's do some exercise, nutrition, did that. Realised that that wasn't also the answer for everything either, because there's still people that would exercise a lot, eat really good food, but still not feel healthy. So that helped me realise there's something else going on, and it wasn't always just about food and nutrition or exercising or even medicines. There's something else going on. So that's when I got to get into more of some other stuff, which was more around how does our mindset affect our well-being, and how we think and feel affect our physical wellness. So how does a thought and a feeling become an actual physical symptom? That's the kind of stuff that I got into after that. So even our thoughts, even what we feel, can become physical symptoms, and that's kind of what I want to go into tonight and show you the connection, my interpretation of it anyway, of how I believe that the physical stuff, some of the physical stuff, symptoms that we experience, has a connection to how we think and feel. And so hopefully by the end of tonight, you'll have a bit of a clearer understanding of that, and maybe even see how that might fit in some aspects of your own lives or in the lives of your whānau. And then at the end, show you maybe how to do some stuff that can help improve your physical symptoms or your physical well-being by changing how we think and feel. So that's kind of the overview, kind of the goal of tonight. And it's good in a small group because we can get through it a bit faster, and Also, you may have questions or things you want to bring up as we go through. It's a lot easier to do that. If you have any questions as we go through, please you can stop me at any point and say, oh, what about this, what about that? Or that doesn't make sense. All of that stuff is good to do, especially when we're in a group like this. So please feel free to do that. Stop me at any point. I don't want to really talk the whole time either. In fact, it's good if you want to ask me questions. That's great too, because it makes it a little bit more relevant for you, and you can get more out of the time tonight. Also, it's usually good to get an understanding of what maybe you want to get out of tonight, or maybe your thoughts. What were you hoping to get out of tonight? What would you like to understand, or what is something that's specific to you that maybe a set of physical symptoms you're struggling with, or circumstance in life that you're struggling with, or anything that you're willing to maybe say in front of everyone, then that's helpful too, because we can put those kinds of examples into the kind of discussion we'll go through tonight. So did anyone come here other than feeling like they were forced to come here? Did anyone have any?
I resent that.
Other than feeling like you had to, is there anything that maybe you thought you wanted to come to? And do you have any kind of examples or experiences that you'd like to maybe get a better understanding about, that maybe I can just put on board that and we can touch on as we go through? Anyone have anything come to mind? Not really? So, because as we'll go through, maybe some stuff will come to mind, and if it does, just say it and we can put it up there just to make sure that I can cover it off. So let's start with, I guess, some of the connection. A lot of, back in pharmacy days, when I was working in pharmacy, people come with lots of different symptoms that they don't want, right? What are some of the symptoms that people come to see you about?
It's usually in the GI, like upset stomachs, or like but nausea,
Right.
all that tummy related.
Yeah, so GI stuff like nausea, tummy, headaches,
Back pain.
pain,
Yeah, pain, like
Yeah.
leg, back.
sinuses, yeah. What else do you normally go in to the pharmacy, or even to the GP?
Cough. I cough.
Yeah. Pain everywhere, like, could be headache pain, could be neck pain, back pain, leg pain, whatever. Pain. Anything else?
Insomnia, sleep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Heaps of them.
no sleep. Yep. That's a big one, eh? Yeah. Actually, that's a good one. We'll come to that one. So, with all of these things here, usually when I was working in pharmacy, like we'll be thinking, okay, these are your symptoms, and thinking, okay, how will we help you to manage the symptom? Like, what is the best way we think that will help you manage the system? Whether that be medicine or suggesting some health advice, or get some rest, whatever it might be. And so, usually we're trying to do something about the symptom. Yeah? Agree? We're trying to fix the symptom. We're usually trying to go, these are the symptoms, we go, right, we need to think of how we can help you with the symptom, manage the symptom. So you don't have to feel the sinusy stuff, or the hay fever, or the sore tummy, or the whatever. Right? And generally that's what medicines are about. They're trying to help you with the symptom. Right? So, manage the symptom. Now, let's use that as a metaphor for life, and let's say now there are unwanted, not just physical symptoms, but even unwanted life circumstances that would come up, that we face at times. What would be some of those unwanted life circumstances that happen, right?
Death and down.
Yeah. Yeah. What else?
Bad relationships.
Relationships. Yeah.
No relationships.
Financial. Yeah. First book relationship.
Covers it all.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like the odd one out.
There's relationships, financial stuff, financial stress.
Yeah.
Usually it's not because we've got too much money. I'm sick of having too much money.
We can't work out how to spend it all.
Yeah.
I think some things are age. What about age?
Yeah.
I guess we're looking
Midlife
at,
crisis.
yeah, so aging workforces, stresses of looking at retirement and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The age. What are the circumstances that have come across that we don't really want, but they, things that stuff that happens?
Issues at work, maybe?
Like, work dramas,
Yeah.
work stuff. Yeah. Cool. So, what do we do when we come up with it? So, when we see these kind of symptoms, we normally go and manage it with something. Sometimes it's the medicine. What are other ways that we manage those symptoms?
Drugs and alcohol. Well, not me personally.
But just so quick to say those things.
Prior experience.
Coping mechanism.
Let's put that coping strategies. Yeah. Whatever this might be. How do we deal with some of this stuff when that comes up? What do we use in place of these? Or
Trace it.
Just
juice up?
bottle it
Hold it in.
in. Hold it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let
everyone see it.
Hold it in or let it out.
Yeah, one or the other.
Yeah. Sometimes some of the same things we'll use as coping strategies, maybe to take, to relieve the pain of having to feel this stuff. What else will we do in these situations at the moment? We usually do.
Pretend it's not happening.
Pretend it's counselling. Like some counselling. Pretend it's not happening. Pretend it's all good.
Hang yourself like somebody did today.
Yeah.
Commit
That's,
suicide.
yeah. That's
It's his way to get it.
yeah, that's again one of the things that happens, yeah. Unfortunately. And so these are, I guess, ways in which if it was a relationship, maybe we'd just change it. Right? Or if we didn't like living in some certain place, we'd move. Or, we kind of manage these things in a similar way to managing these things. We try and fix it at that level. Right? Sick of, being in this relationship, I'm going to change it. Sick of living here, I'm going to move. Sick of not having any money, I'm going to try and do something about it. Or I'm going to feel like I can't do anything about it, so I'm going to find some way to not feel like it's a problem. Take that initial feeling away. Right? And so that's how we generally manage these unwanted physical symptoms, but also unwanted life circumstances that come in. And it's, we're looking at, I guess, a surface level way of dealing with it. What I've noticed is that actually there's probably some other stuff going on. This is usually just treating the symptom at a symptom level. We're trying to manage the symptom, but it doesn't actually usually take care of what's actually the cause of the symptom. It just kind of deals with the symptom. It's like, I knew that there was no one back there, so it turned on. So, what I found is generally, we end up with these unwanted life circumstances or even some of these physical symptoms as a result of, let's say, stuff we keep on doing. So I'll put here behaviours, right? We keep doing. Or situations we keep getting ourselves into, right? So things we keep doing end us up in situations we don't want to be in. So let me use an example for that. Maybe one that I always use is stuff we keep doing would be something like, I keep saying yes when I really mean no, right? That would be an example of a thing I keep doing that keeps ending me up in this unwanted circumstance I didn't want to be in, right? But even though I know I keep doing it, I know that I want to say no, but I keep saying yes, and I end up there, right? Same thing if, for example, in a relationship where I know it's not, I don't want to be there, but I keep pretending that it's all good. Right, that would be another behavior. Pretend that it's all good. Keep ending up in the same situation, right? What about for, so when I was doing personal training, unwanted physical symptom would be, I keep putting on more weight. right? Doing all this exercise and doing all this nutrition thing, but keep putting on more weight. Well, sometimes it's around the behaviors that we're doing or not doing, right? For some reason, even though I know I'm supposed to eat good and do all this exercise, for some reason I don't do it, right? Even though I know it's good for me, but don't do it, right? So does that kind of make sense as far as the stuff that we keep doing or not doing in our life, patterns that we keep on running that end us up in either unwanted life circumstances or getting symptoms that we don't want. Now you might think, well, what's that got to do with my nausea or my tummy pain or my headache? Yeah, that kind of. Yeah. So, if this was the problem, the stuff we keep doing or not doing, then what would be some of the things that we've tried to change at this level? So, this is the time where I thought doing personal training and helping people to eat better or whatever was going to solve everyone's problems, right? And it might help them change behaviour for a little while, but as soon as you're not there, or yeah, go back to what I was doing before, right?
Stop talking about me. Something else, make me uncomfortable.
So, what are some other examples of things do you think that we do to try and fix our behaviours? Or change our patterns? What are some things that we might try and do? We might go on like for this, we might go on a new diet, we might join another gym. What else might we do? Stop doing the thing that we know is not good for us for a period of time.
Get another credit card, finances.
Yeah. Another credit card. Right, so we try and change the behaviour, and we just say, stop doing what you're doing, right? So if you're not exercising, start exercising. Eating all this food, eat some different food. And we try and just get you to change at the behaviour level, right? And this works for some people, but I've noticed doesn't work for everyone. There's something else that's keeping people stuck that's not this, right? And it's usually something else going on, which is usually those kind of beliefs or patterns, programs, right? So you could say these are ways of thinking, right? These ways of thinking that we have, programs, beliefs, patterns that keep us stuck in these. So, back to that example, I keep saying yes when I really mean no. What's the belief or the pattern behind that? What do I actually believe would happen? What do I believe would happen if I actually said no when I meant no?
Rejection.
Right.
Judgment.
Judgment, rejection, disappointment. Yep.
Letting people down.
Letting someone else down. Exactly. This is what we believe. It may or may not be true, but this is what we believe will happen if I did the thing I wanted to do. Right? So let's use an exercise example. I wanted to lose weight. I know I'm supposed to be exercising, but when I go to do the exercising, the belief behind it sometimes is, we've tried that before, and it didn't work. Right?
And it boils down to the way you think.
Yeah.
Talk
Is
yourself
that-
out of it.
Yeah.
You talk yourself out of it, exactly. But I need to change my diet, so I'm going to do this, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to eat really healthy, I do it really well for a week, maybe 2 weeks, but in the back of your mind there's this old belief pattern that says, we've done this before.
It's
You've
in
tried
the genes.
changing you. It's in the genes,
It's
it's
not going
just,
to make a difference.
It's
Yeah, this isn't
confidence
gonna
as
make-
well.
this is not make a difference.
Yeah, it can fall back on your confidence as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
You're at a low.
Yeah.
You're at a low.
Yeah.
And to please your mind is just always say yes. So
That's right.
confidence is.
Yeah. And so that's where sometimes, this is actually what holds us back sometimes, is the ways that we're thinking,
You're
right?
feeling comfortable in that position.
You're feeling comfortable.
Will be, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's easy.
It's easy. I don't have to change anything.
No.
I can just believe what my mind is telling me all the time that, that's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work. But then I won't try anymore. That's a relief. So that was hard trying. That was hard.
Okay, now he's talking about all of us.
Over there.
That's really fun. I don't have to worry about that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll find another way to feel better. Yeah. So if this was the problem then, the beliefs or the patterns and the programs that we've got locked in, and by the way, these are basically programmed in during that first 7 years of life. That's when we absorb all of the patterns and programs from everyone around us at the time. So you might wonder, well, that's where these actually come from. So whoever was around us during those first 7 years of life, that's where we've absorbed the same beliefs, the same patterns, the same way of responding to situations. So during that period of time, you are just a sponge, you absorb everything. You're absorbing, noticing how people respond to situations. And then, so let's say it's a situation there that causes fear or panic. Well, now you've got a record of how to respond to something that's fearful or that causes panic. Right? Let's say this is a situation about anything else. You've absorbed the program or the pattern to how to deal with any situation. Right? And so that's when they begin, and then they just become re-ingrained, re-entrenched every time we use the same pattern. Every time we use that same pattern of thinking, it gets deeper and deeper ingrained, right? Until it becomes, I guess, more and more challenging to change. So, these beliefs, patterns, programs, ways that we're thinking keep us stuck doing the things or not doing the things, and then keep us getting stuck in these symptoms or circumstances. Right? Does that make sense so far? Or, yeah. So then, if that was the problem, we'd say, right, we just need to change the way that you think. Change your beliefs, change your patterns. But like I said, kind of difficult when they've been in there since, we were 7. Or built in since that first 7 years. Anyone tried to change maybe thinking patterns, beliefs before? Yep. And what kind of things was that all in relation to?
Just work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the belief is keep working all the time?
Yeah.
Is that like
Working at
work
it.
non-stop?
Work all the time.
Yeah. One of the beliefs that are really stuck in is you have to work hard to get anywhere. Yeah. It's only through hard work that you'll get anywhere. Right? And so the belief is keep working hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. Yeah. Great. So you tried changing that one, did you say?
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely did.
Yeah. So you started 2 jobs.
No, took a break. A long break.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, and how did you manage to change the thinking around it?
Took away the feeling of guilt
Cool.
at having changed patterns,
Right.
which felt great,
Yeah.
and just got that self-doubt out of the whole situation.
Cool. So you touched on the thing that's actually behind these, which is what we actually feel. So a lot of times we get stuck in these other things, right? The ways that we feel, these emotions, you can call it, what we're feeling, keeps us stuck in the same pattern of thinking. So underneath this is actually this other level where we have these unresolved negative emotions. One of them, guilt. What would be some other ones?
Shame.
Yeah. What else would be some of the emotions some of the things that we feel?
Failure.
Yeah, good. Yep. Same, and it's similar to shame, not good enough, right? Embarrassed, yep. Some of the common ones also to anger, being angry, hurt, really common one. And so it's actually the stuff here that keeps us stuck with the same patterns and ways of thinking. And it bounces between these two, as in what we're feeling and what we're thinking. So it starts off with we're thinking this way, and then I end up feeling this way. And it gets to the point where you can feel that way, and then you'll start thinking that way. Right? And so they start to reinforce each other. This negative pattern of thinking makes us feel in this way, some of these things here. And then in future, when you start to feel any of these things, immediately the thoughts will come that are attached to those. You aren't good enough anyway. You know, why did you think that you were going to be able to do any of this stuff? You know, those are that almost become linked, the feeling and the thought. Right? So you can think about emotions as, you know, they're kind of this energy that's in motion. Lots of times it's not in motion, it gets blocked, and so when it's blocked, it's the blockage of it, when it's not allowed to flow, that causes, because it's, you know, even though we might feel these things, and we all do at some point, if we hold on to them, and they accumulate over time and build up, that's actually what continues to cause us and gets us stuck in this situation, and we'll feel more and more of these things because we end up in more and more of these symptoms and circumstances. And so this ends up there, and then basically this is the causing all the stress because we're just pushing more and more stuff down, holding on to more and more stuff, and it accumulates and builds up to the point where either it just explodes out or it begins to cause physical symptoms. Your body has to then deal with that because it all has an energy, all of these have an energy attached to them, and the energy, if you don't let it go or allow it to pass through or move, actually gets stuck, blocked, and that's why things like acupuncture and all those different methodologies or modalities around energy movement are all to do with moving blocked energy. Right? And so these things here actually keep us stuck with those same old patterns and beliefs, keep us stuck doing the same things, getting the same results, and feeling the same things again. Right? Stress now is the underlying cause of the top 6 causes of death. Right, all the way through from liver cirrhosis to accidents and to suicide even. These are the top 6 causes of death are all underpinned by stress. And it's not the kind of stress where a little bit of stress today kind of stress. It's the 24/7 stress, right? It's the chronic stress. It's the feeling like there's always something in the back of your head saying that you're not good enough, or that you've never been good enough, or that anything of these things here. It just sits in the back. It's like it's there the whole time. And you might feel good at some points, and that's great, but there's this underlying thing that's just eating away at you from the inside out. And that's what the stress is about. And so your body then has to deal with that stress if we don't process it or deal with it in a different way. Your body's got to deal with it, and it does it by giving you symptoms to highlight for you something's up. Something's up and needs to change in this area. Right? So now I look at symptoms as messages to keep us, to get us be aware of what's actually going on. So there's, does that make sense so far? Can we see how that's, and can you see how that might be accurate in your life or in any other of your whānau life, or do you see how that can actually make sense? Any questions about any of that, or is there, do you want me to use a different example, or would you like me to add anything to that bit?
Some of those things would be, you know, like relationships, you can change, or, you know, financial stress.
Yeah.
Those kind of things that are, you know, in some ways easier to deal with. But things like aging and death,
Yeah.
you can't do anything about them. You know, like as you hit your midlife crisis or start thinking about, you know, like say planning for retirement or
Yeah.
things like that, you know, how do you,
Yeah, we can't do anything about some of these circumstances. All we can do is change our perspective on it, because stress is all about your perspective of a situation. So in any situation, pick any of them, I might see that differently to you and to someone else, and we might all, even though the situation is the same, we may see the situation differently. It's like I might see it through these other lenses. You've got different lenses on that you can see it. This one might stress me out, but it's not a stress to you. Right? And so it all comes back to, how do I see the situation? How do I perceive it? So with a death, for example, how am I currently seeing the situation? Right? Is there a different perspective? What are the other perspectives? Or am I stuck in this one particular perspective? Or financial stress, or aging, you know, different, some might look at aging as a negative thing, some might look at it as a positive thing, depending on your perspective. So yeah, there's one that we don't necessarily have any control over, but we can control how we see it. And we can, I guess as the saying goes, focus on what you can control, because where your attention goes, your energy goes. Right? Where your attention goes, energy flows. So focus on what you can control and what meaning you choose to give a situation. So for any situation, you can choose what meaning you're going to give the situation. Right? So, yeah, whether they're ones that we've caused or not, what we do have control over is how we see a situation. Does that make sense? So,
I guess that's the hardest part that you're dealing with though, isn't it? Stress. Is changing the perception.
exactly.
It's the influences around other people,
Yeah.
you know, people with eating disorders and all
Yep.
of that kind of stuff. It's perception of other things and it's in your head and you probably can't control it. You're trying to manage it and managing the influences. Though,
Yeah. And so that's, you've put on another really important point, which is the environment, the effect of the environment that we're in, and what environment we choose to be in. And so the environment isn't just the people around us, but it's how we set up the things around us to either support us in good behaviours or not. Right? And so a lot of the self-helpy books and the psychology books and all that used to say it's all about your willpower. Like, you know, you've got to use your willpower to get through this and overcome and just, you know, change your habits and whatever else. And that was great until they realised that actually there's about a 50% effect that the environment has, right, that was ignored for so long. Which is basically, you might be so awesome at sticking to your behaviours in this environment, but if we move you into this environment, it'll fall over. Right? So it's not only now about your willpower, but it's also about how do you change your environment to suit what you want. Right? For too long, we've ignored the effect the environment had, and it was just having the impact and causing all of these things, and we're wondering what the heck's going on here. Well, now we realise that we can control and change the environment. If we don't, it will control us.
Well, simple things now that we, social media,
Yeah, exactly.
there's a lot to answer for.
Yeah. Yep. Games, you know, the kind of gaming stuff, the social media stuff, the how often we've been notified, all that kind of stuff, you know. And these are specific technologies that are specifically designed to keep you addicted, right? That's how it's designed, right? In very specific ways to keep us addicted to whatever it is that they want us to look at, or to keep scrolling, or to whatever. There's this very specific science behind it, where the buttons go, what the spacing is, all of that stuff, to keep you involved, keep you engaged, keep you engaged. Yeah. It's all of it, colour scheme, everything. All of that stuff is created specifically to keep you engaged. So yeah, that environment has a huge influence, and people are only just realising that now when it comes to things like technology, phones, social media and all that. So yeah, that's I guess a little bit about what stress is and how that stress is created, and then now how your body has to deal with the stress while you end up getting some kind of physical symptom as a result of stress that hasn't been dealt with, which is usually some of this stuff here. So how does it end up as headaches or tummy pain or nausea or any of these things? Well, generally the symptom's going to come out in the body in a specific place to let you know that there's something going wrong, right? So depending on where in the body it is, will be an indication, another message as to what is the underlying thing, right? So for example, headaches, we're in our heads too much these days, right? Worrying about so many different things, we're either thinking about the past, anxious about the future, but we're not actually in the present, right? And so our mind isn't actually here, it's either stressing about something that happened in the past, going over and over and over a situation from before that caused some of that stuff, or we're anxious about something coming up in the future that maybe we're a little bit worried about as well, right? And so when we're busy keeping all of this stuff and trying to keep it going in our minds and in our heads, it causes that pain. It actually causes some constriction of blood vessels to the point where too much constriction of the blood vessels means that the blood's not getting to these these other receptors, which means that pain, right? Sets off pain. Does that throughout the body, right? So even the kind of things here, even though we think I've dealt with it, now that's sweet, I'm all good. You know, there may be some things from that are recent or past that actually end up causing elements of stress for us that is we're trying to put into the back of our minds, but it's still always there, and it ends up causing this kind of ongoing chronic stress. And over time, it ends up causing some kind of symptom. Now this doesn't necessarily describe every symptom that you'd ever get, but certainly with chronic pain, there is absolutely a link to some chronic unresolved situations. There's always some kind of link to that. Sometimes your acute kind of symptoms, you know, may not have any relevance to some of that because it's dependent on your environment, whatever else has happened or something you've eaten. But if it's chronic no sleep, for example, chronic insomnia, is something to do with stuff that's going on here that you're stressed about something coming up or in the past and hasn't been resolved yet, and so your mind can't rest because you have this kind of running over time.
You wake up more tired than when you went to sleep
Yeah,
because you've been running all night.
yeah, that's right. And that's the time when your body's supposed to be recovering and resting, but it doesn't get that recovery and rest, right? And so it just drains it even more. And then we need to try and take something to help us get to sleep. And then when we do get to sleep, we stay asleep for too long, and then we wake up even more tired because of all that. And then we're out of balance with the natural cycle, the circadian rhythm. We get out of balance with that, and so which changes the hormone pattern, which changes cortisol and more stress, and it's just this cascade of effects throughout the body. So does that explain a little bit about how the emotional well-being actually affects your physical well-being?
I mean, there's even a simple thing, even from when you were younger, you used to have to go to school sports.
Yeah.
And just the whole nervousness that suddenly I want to go to the toilet and I don't even want to go, you know, I just
Yeah.
want to go. But that's your mind racing around, am I going to lose? I'm going to be embarrassed.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
it's all about, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And your physical body, it naturally does do something.
Yeah. And it helps you get out of that situation. If that's potentially embarrassing or it's going to put you in a situation that you're not going to
Yeah,
like.
it just makes you feel sick.
Yeah.
And you're not actually sick and you can't treat it with drugs or anything
Yeah.
like that. Once the race is over or whatever it is, it's all yeah, so it's all about,
Yeah.
it's really a lot with your mind and how your mind's racing, thinking, and it's continuously thinking
Yeah.
all of the time. It's always active, going, I'm sitting here listening to you, and then suddenly it's going, oh shit, that's not Right, and,
Yeah.
the kids got, but then you come
What
back
else
to
is
the
going on?
situation.
Mm.
Yeah, you know, your brain's always thinking all of the time, it's managing all of that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why is our brain always doing it? It's because it's always thinking about how best to survive. Right? Your brain doesn't care about whether you're happy or not. It's not interested in happiness or any of those other cool things. It's only interested in survival. Right? So it's busy taking in information so that it knows how to help you survive. So any negative or traumatic or stressful situation, your brain is going overtime because it needs to record exactly what happened, who's involved, what's going on here, how are we feeling, what's the environment like, so that if this ever came up again in the future and it looked or felt similar to this, we know we're out of there. Right? It's a protection mechanism. That's why our brains are going 50 miles an hour all the time, because it's scan. Is there anything around here that we need to protect ourselves from? No. If there is, quick, take all these pictures, know what we're doing, so that we can never be in this situation again. A lot of times the situations lead us to feel some of this stuff, and then that's recorded as well. Right? So there's four memories, not just your intellectual memory, there's 4 memories that your body records of every event, right? So you've got your intellectual memory, right? Which is what? What would you think the intellectual memory is? I remember when, right? And you're just, and this is the one that changes all the time, right? Have you noticed that sometimes 5 years after the actual thing, the story's different to when it actually happened?
It's just an update.
Yeah. At the time, this is how I remember it, the day after. 5 years later, I look at it and it seems different. Oh, I remember it way different to then. 50 years later, I definitely know this is what happened. So that's the intellectual memory. It changes over time, right? These other 3 don't change unless you specifically know how to change them. So the first one is visual memory. You take a picture of the traumatic or stressful negative situation. Picture, right? Visual memory stored, right? And you can't muck around with that when it's like in the hard drive kind of thing. Right? It's locked in place. Next one is a chemical memory. So all the chemicals that were flooding through you when you felt anything that you needed to be protected from, recorded, right? So you will know, your body knows exactly the chemicals that go through when something is stressful over here, right? A good example of a chemical memory is when you smell a perfume or a smell and you remember something from like years ago. Oh, that reminds me of X situation. Right? That's a chemical memory. Because you're smelling this particular perfume or chemical and it reminds you of something ages ago. Right? It's a linked memory. That's chemical one. The other one is cellular memory. Right? So that's the recording of what was actually felt. Right? And that gets put into every cell. Right? So that to protect you, so every cell knows if we're ever in this situation and it feels like this, we need to protect ourselves and get out of there. Right? So these 3 hang out together because they're all stored in the subconscious, which is a little bit in the body. Right? I say the subconscious mind is the physical body. This is not, this is in your intellectual memory, but these 3 hang out together, and if a lot of time things like counselling and stuff will work on people at that intellectual memory level, but not so much in these. Does that make sense? So people will have these negative, traumatic, stressful situations, and then we'll try and help them by talking to them about what their recollection is at an intellectual level, but not actually address some of these things that are going on. And that's why sometimes just talking about it and going over the event doesn't necessarily help sometimes, because it needs actually to resolve, change some of those memories so that you can actually move forward. Any questions about this so far that we've covered?
So you just finished talking about fight or flight, is that
Yeah.
that thing?
Yeah, fight or flight. Yeah. So it's the that kind of response, that stress response. Yeah, where we need to protect ourselves. It's fight or flight, and the other one that happens is freeze. Right. Especially in trauma, like especially in traumatic situations, people will freeze. Like, and they can literally remember and see themselves frozen in space, which is almost like they've gone out of their bodies and they can see themselves there in the trauma, but not feel any of it. Again, it's a protection mechanism. It's like if it's something, for example, a really traumatic situation, it's almost like they go like this, physical body's still there, but they don't feel it or don't experience it until that's passed, and then, which is, yeah, fight, flight, or freeze. And in the fight or flight one, that's cortisol goes up, all the other hormones, blood glucose goes up, and all the stress response happens to help you to get out of that situation, which worked really well if we were trying to get away from a lion or a bear, yeah, or any kind of threat like that. But these days, the threat isn't a lion or a bear, it's financial stress, relationships, it's work, it's stuff that you can't really run away from and then feel better or feel safe over here because you can't run away from it. And even when we try and do some of the coping strategies or taking this stuff here, temporarily we might feel like we've escaped, but the next day it's just compounded. Right? And so that fight or flight response is still active in us, but it's just getting built up more and more inside because none of it's being released. And it just gets more and more, it just accumulates. And then we get stuck in those patterns. So yeah, that's the fight or flight or the thing response. Does that make sense? Any questions about any of this so far, or can we see, does it make sense with any examples that you've had yourself, or?
Oh, it makes sense to me. I had a son who was 18 years old and he tried to take his own life. Failed, luckily for us.
Yeah.
There was relationships, there was finances, there was all sorts of things. But, yeah, I don't, probably this sort of thing's the first time I've ever heard of this sort of stuff. You know, that makes a whole lot of sense. The environment he was in, you know. Probably even when he was growing up with us at home, you know, I was pretty strict old man, you know. So he probably did, you know, he wasn't able to get out of line too much with it, but Dad probably lived with it. And then when he went away on his own, I don't think he had a coping mechanism.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a good example. When they've
But
been in
today,
this,
he's in his 40s, but he suffers from stress.
yeah,
He's sort of, on antidepressants, you know.
Yeah.
Not heavy doses, but enough to
yeah,
just keep him calm,
yeah,
calm him down.
yeah. That's a good example because you're right, sometimes we get, because of the environment we've been in for so long, we don't necessarily have the skills to deal with it when it's not that environment anymore. We're put in a different environment and don't have some of the skills to deal with it or how to resolve those things that might come up in this other space. But it's, yeah, thanks for that because that shows that how this is linked, right? And sadly for a lot of our whānau don't actually necessarily know how to deal with it, let alone even talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, how many people want to talk about that, let alone have a process to, you know, go through to resolve it if it comes up. And a lot of times this stuff isn't shown in this way that it's all connected. It might be just, oh, you need to sort out this area here and sort that out without taking into account all these other things that are part of that response.
Most of the time though, I feel I can see that in other people.
Yeah.
And you can connect the dots for them,
Yeah.
but it's always harder to connect the dots for yourself.
yourself,
And,
yeah.
and so so you're trying to tell them how the dots are connected and they don't see it,
Yeah,
and then someone's trying to tell you they can see yours.
yeah, like
And
whatever.
that's, yeah, and that's the hardest part
Yeah,
is connecting your own dots when you can connect
yeah,
everyone else's.
yeah, that's another good point. That it's so much easier for us to see in other people the patterns. And when people point the patterns out in us, we're like, whatever. Like a parent that might say, oh, you're just like your man, or you're just like your mum, or you're just like, just like the. No, I'm not. No, I'm not like him. And that's what, because they can see the similarities or the patterns, which we don't want to look at. Right? We don't want to see any of those things. And so we've been trying most of our lives to avoid that. And then when someone points it out to us, we're just going to deny it. Nah, that's rubbish.
Again, it's perception, it's, you don't think that you're anything like your mother, but actually,
Oh God, I
it's
am
all
like my father, I know.
inherent, you
Yeah.
try and strive to not be like that.
Yeah, yeah.
and
I've spent my
it's
whole
a
life trying not to be.
Yeah, and you spend all your time focusing on that when there's other things that, in
Yeah.
some cases, it's not bad patterns to have.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Sometimes they're great
Yeah.
to continue. Yeah. But we just don't like when people point out the ones that aren't that great. Yeah, we don't want to hear about those ones. But that's actually part of coming to this awareness, and so that what you're talking to is we can be really good at seeing others, but unaware of what's going on for ourselves. And so that idea of being, I don't know, call it mindfulness these days, or awareness, or just being aware of, it's almost like you can zoom out and look at yourself responding in situations. And not many people can do that, let alone spend time trying to do that. Because it does take a practice to develop assessing, becoming aware, assessing what you do, how you respond, and how you're behaving, and what is that behaviour based on. Not many people spend time doing that. And so that's why it's so much easier to see other people's things than to see any of our own. Because we don't do a lot of introspection, we don't do a lot of looking in at ourselves, we spend a lot of time looking out at everyone else. So it becomes really easy to pick up everyone else's flaws and faults and patterns. And then easy for us to deny when anyone says anything to us about it. Because we haven't done any of the look-in stuff. Because it's sometimes, again, I don't want to have to go deal with any of this stuff. You know, sometimes we think, oh, we're sorted over that kind of, we don't have to go there. But the more we look in and get it, and this is what all of these are trying to say to us. Like these first unwanted symptoms and circumstances in life are trying to say to us, look in, you know, to try and solve this. But what we normally do is look out, I need I need to grab this, I need this medicine, I need, or we look at the environment and it's this person's fault, or it's this, or I feel like this because of them. And so we're looking out all the time to see what is the problem. We don't do a lot of look in and try and solve it. And so a lot of the way to deal with this is to actually practice and get used to becoming good at being aware, identifying and acknowledging what it is that we actually feel at this level, so that we can, one, speak it out, write it out, breathe it out, whatever, so that it's not accumulating. And that's the biggest thing at the moment, is that it continues to accumulate within us without us even knowing, because it's getting stored subconsciously. So you're not consciously aware that this stuff is actually being recorded and stored, because it's happening at a subconscious level. Right? And some of the latest stuff says that 95% of what you do every day is subconscious. So 95% of what you do every day is just being run by the subconscious. Right? All these patterns, programs, stuff, it's running the show basically, which is, you know, a significant portion of our day. Unless we become aware, mindfully, about what actually am I involved in here. They also say that 95% of the things that we do, and this is why 95% of the things we do today are the same things we do yesterday. Right? So they're recurrent thoughts. Let's say you have around 60,000 thoughts a day, 95% are the same ones that you've had before. Right? They're just recurring thoughts, and 80% of them are negative. So if you were to really zoom out and look at, you know, out of those, you know, several thousand thoughts that you have every day, how many of them are positive, uplifting for you, how many of them are negative? I can pretty much guarantee that a lot of them are saying to you, not good enough, you don't know how to do this, you know, a lot of the thoughts are actually negative. Right? And so that, over time, accumulating makes us feel more of those things there. So yes, it is about the thinking, but also how the thinking then trains the feeling in the body, and then the feeling creates the thinking. It's like it's bouncing backward and forward between your thinking and your feeling. And so if we're thinking the same things every day, well, you're going to end up feeling the same things every day, right? Which is why it's difficult to sometimes overcome depression or any of those other things where we don't feel that great, compounded by the fact that you might have an antidepressant that is designed to keep you within a specific range of feeling so that you don't feel the highs and the lows, right? We don't want you to feel too low, but it also means that you won't feel that high either. It just keeps you within a band, right? And so when we're trying to deal with some of those feeling things, well, we're stuck in the same feelings because we're stuck in the same thinking, and vice versa. Any other questions about that, or is that, anyone got anything specific around any conditions or any of the symptoms and how that links? Most of the indigenous cultures, and you know, if you think about traditional Chinese med, right through to Ayurvedic med, right through to, you know, all of the indigenous cultures, as far as their practices are concerned, believe that different parts of the body signify different things, right, and hold different meaning. And so when different symptoms or messages show up in different parts of the body, they're there for a reason. And they show up in that place for a reason. So for example, right-sided thing might be to do with, you know, male side or work-related things. Left side might be more about female side. Head means something, trunk different things, legs and down is around movement, fear of moving forward. So all of them have different meanings ascribed that are common throughout the world. And so when these show up in different places, it helps you understand, well, what is the underlying cause that's bringing about the symptom? And here's something you can use them as little clues to help you identify and become aware of what is the thing at the bottom of it. And so that's some of the way to find out. So is that making sense so far? That's no other questions on this stuff to this point? Anyone wanting to go over anything else that I've gone over so far? Sweet.
No, I was going to be thinking about it as well.
Now I'm causing insomnia.
Yeah, you best come up with a way to get rid of the insomnia now that you're giving it to us.
Yeah. So let's talk now about, okay, what can we do about it? Right, that's all very well. Now we know a little bit about how it's all linked together. So what? You know, what can you then now go and do about it?
Train your brain.
Yep. And so what would be some examples of training your brain?
We haven't got
Train
that
your
far.
Talking out loud.
Yeah, talking out loud is good.
Needs to be like our phones have an off
Should run
button.
around
Yeah.
talking.
Turn the phone off.
Talking to yourself.
Visualising.
The brain needs to
Yeah.
turn it off.
So let's think about some train your brain stuff. So visualizing, yep,
Positive thinking.
yep. Anyone tried any of these things before?
Yeah, visualising.
Yep.
Positive thinking.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good day. This is going to be a good day. Apply it.
Make it a good day.
Meditation is a good one.
Yeah,
I'm
meditation.
never very good at that. I've tried.
Is it one of those? Is it one of those beliefs?
Yeah, I'm not good at it.
Yeah, well,
It
it's
doesn't
not-
work like
I'm
that.
not good. I'm not very good at that. So I'm going to go ahead and not do it. Because I don't want to feel like I'm failing at it. Visualizing,
Mindfulness.
mindfulness,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sound.
Sound.
Well, music, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Specific hertz frequencies, apparently 507 hertz brain is supposed to be the right hertz. Yeah, lots of stuff on Google. There's specific sound frequencies that are, calming and all that kind of stuff, and you'll notice that from the different kinds of music, right? In fact, there's some research that says that compared with maybe 50 years ago, the hertz or the frequency of the music has changed. And back then it was more, even though it might have had a beat, it was still more soothing and calming, whereas today, the type of music, but the hertz and the frequency at which it's played is actually offsetting our natural rhythms.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Kids next
Yeah.
door.
Which I thought, that's interesting. Yeah. So the frequency and the hertz at which today's music is transmitted at actually is incompatible. It just doesn't resonate with our physical, natural resonance, which I thought was really interesting because it's basically putting you out of sync.
I don't know, sometimes over the back fence when we were younger, there was a party going on and the same chorus went over and over again to like 10 guitars or something. It's like, what's the rest of the words?
And the rest of the words.
I'm sure it was you, Liz.
I was way down the other end.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was apparently.
I was ringing.
I was stuck it over there. I don't know, but she said she was looking at the ceiling, so I don't know if that's helped, but.
That's why you just say about indigenous cultures, you
Yeah.
look at all their sounds,
Yeah.
there's nothing rowdy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the sounds are at that natural frequency that actually fits with our physical being. Yeah, because they're usually made from natural instruments.
Well, the rain can be
Yeah, oh, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
rain on the roof, rain on the road.
That's why when we go into natural surroundings, we usually feel better. Right? Whether it's water in the bush, whatever it is, any time you get into a natural surrounding, you feel better, or you come out of there feeling better than when you went in.
Including the smells and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the senses.
Yeah. Exactly. So a lot of times it's getting into those places that can realign you with what's natural. Because our bodies are set to a natural rhythm, right? Just like everything else. But too often we live in this space that is unnatural to our physical being, whether it be, building whatever kind of work that we do. So these are great as far as training your brain. A really good thing for awareness, which helps you with then training your brain, is to speak out. So again, it's to do with sound, but it's your sound, like the sound of your own voice. Talking about some of those things that we had down there. I feel whatever. Right? I feel angry. You can hear, when you hear yourself say that, right? So it's the whole sound frequency thing. When you hear yourself say it, it recognizes that, yes, we acknowledge that we feel da-da-da. Too often we don't speak it out. We're busy thinking it over and over and over in our minds, but we don't actually verbalize it. Right, it goes round and round and round here. We feel worse. We think more of it. We feel worse. We think more, feel worse. As soon as you begin to speak it out and put it into sound, or even if it doesn't have a word, but you put the sound to the feeling, it takes that energy that's attached to that negative emotion out from here, puts it out there. Right, so that's why speaking that out, although quite simple, is actually quite powerful. You can speak
To an extent.
to an extent. Yeah, you can speak out what it is that, and it's acknowledging what you truly feel, not what you expect someone else to say, but acknowledging what's true for you. Next one is write it. So that takes it again out of here and out of here, put it onto something else. Right? So you can write out what you actually feel. Journaling, not just what I did today, but what I felt about what happened today, right? Because again, that's another way of being able to release some of this stuff and get some of that unwanted, unresolved stuff out, is to write it out. Another really good way is to breathe. So when I say breathing, I'm talking about being able to say some of those things through diaphragmatic breathing. Everyone familiar with diaphragmatic breathing? Being able to do that breathing that we're all supposed to naturally do anyway, which we
It's interesting
usually
because
don't.
I've just come back from Japan and we went to a temple and a monk and we sat in this environment and we had to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting and it's just breathing and he hit me and I didn't feel him.
Yeah.
And he hit me with the ruler, like he was going around hitting everybody
Mm.
and it's putting yourself into that meditation.
Yeah.
It was really interesting because it was just 15 minutes of it.
Yeah.
We liked it. I had a bad year. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And breathing in and out is does help.
It's again a simple thing, but very powerful. Especially when you use it consistently and you consciously work on breathing in that way. Because generally throughout the rest of the day, you're not breathing that way. We're breathing using chest accessory muscles and shoulders go up and all that. But when we consciously spend, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes a day on diaphragmatic breathing, makes a big difference to a lot of other things that are going on. And helps us to let go of some of those things, because it's like you say, you're going in, focusing on the breathing, and then your mind in the meditation space can go into how am I responding in these different situations? What's coming up for me? I'm feeling ... Why is that? And then you're allowing yourself to process it, basically. Most of the time we don't do that, and so it just keeps building up. So these are really good ways to, again, this is all to do with awareness of where you're at. So becoming more aware and being able to acknowledge without judging yourself. Acknowledge without saying that's good or bad, or I shouldn't be feeling that, or any of those kinds of things, without judging yourself, but acknowledging what you truly feel at that point in time, and that it's okay to feel those things, and then let them go. Too often we think, oh no, I shouldn't feel like this, that's bad, right? Because I shouldn't be feeling ... Yeah? But actually, it's okay to feel those things. You just have to accept, acknowledge, and be aware of it, and then it can kind of go. Right? And it's okay to feel those things. Once we're kind of aware and can acknowledge that stuff, that's when these things become way more effective. Right? Being able to then, once you've done this, visualizing becomes way more powerful, because you're able to visualize from a space without having all that kind of negative stuff going around in you. You've let some of that go already, and then your visualization can be more powerful. For example, if you try and do positive thinking and say all these happy affirmations every day, but you're putting it onto a foundation of negativity, well, it's not going to hang around there for very long. Right? You might say, I'm happy, healthy, fit and strong every day in the mirror, but in the back of your mind you're going, whatever.
Yeah, be over in a minute.
Yeah, this is, I am wasting my time, but I have to keep doing it.
Because what are we told to do?
Yeah, I'm going to stay here and keep doing it because someone expects me to do it, right? But in the back of my mind going, this isn't working. Because we haven't had a chance to resolve some of the stuff that's, we're talking about the tip of the iceberg. We haven't resolved or done any work on this stuff, and we're trying to say some positive stuff up here. Right? And it just kind of washes off.
Slide down.
Yes, I done it. That's cool. Yeah, you're happy, positive. That's great. So when we've done some of this work here, acknowledging some of that other stuff, right, letting it go, these become so much more effective. Right? Meditation, positive thinking, it can actually be anchored in you. You can hold on. It can hold into something on you instead of just rushing off you. Visualizing, doing the mindfulness, and then even the sound stuff becomes more powerful as well. Just from clearing out some of the old stuff that's still in there.
I think that tip of the iceberg thing is that thing as well, where you're going around and you're pretending that everything's okay. You know, like you're telling everyone, yeah, I'm fine, it's okay, and, you know, I'm dealing with this, but actually you're not. So it's just on the surface that it's happening, and then all of a sudden it all comes home to roost, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'm
you
sweet.
have a real bad moment. where it
You
all
hit a
just-
brick wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or we do the thing where we've got this mask for work. This is me at work.
Mm,
This is me at home. This is me when I'm with this group of people. This is me over here.
mm,
And so we're busy trying to be all of these different people when we go into these different environments.
mm.
And that causes stress because, you know, you're trying to perform. It's almost like you're performing in these different situations
Yeah,
and never really being you,
because they might not like you.
because they might not like you. And you aren't good enough, so you better pretend to be someone else really good with this group of people. Right? And then when you're over here, you need to pretend to be like this, right? To fit in. And that's usually what the driver is that we're so afraid of not fitting in that we'll do whatever it takes to stay in the group. And the reason for that is, again, your brain's wired for survival. Because back in the day, if you didn't fit in the group, if you're outside the group, you're dead. Right? Outside of the group in caveman times means dead. So you'll do everything you can to stay in the group. Right? And so that same survival mechanism is still going that says you need to do everything you can to stay in the group. So fit in. Okay, to fit in here I need to put on this mask. To fit in here I need to be this. To fit in here. And we're so afraid of not fitting in. Afraid of rejection, afraid of not being accepted, afraid of whatever. So one of the biggest things over here is unresolved negative emotions, fear. Because we're so afraid of all of these different situations happening and that cause all this anxiety in the future and worry about the past because of the fear. Right? And that's what I mean by fear, afraid of not being